Why are you here today?
Darling, I want my gay rights now. I think it's about time the gay brothers and sisters got their rights, and especially the women.
When I was in high school, I found Christine Jorgensen's autobiography. Christine Jorgensen is the person who had the sex change back in the late 50s, and that was my Bible, so I hid it underneath my bed. No one knew I had that book. And then I went to the library and I saw Harry Benjamin, The Transsexual Phenomenon, because I was always trying to find why and how I exist, because no one in my family could tell me or acknowledge or think about me being other than when I was assigned at birth. So my growing up was really very challenging. I think that could be in a lot of black households where, especially if you go to church, we have this whole religious background, and especially from that era of people migrating from the South for a better life, because my grandparents raised my sister, my brother, and myself. So they had the ideology of, moving forward and being better and coming from the country and moving to the city. And then the church was our cornerstone. So I guess looking back in hindsight, me being who I was not in their scope of even trying to understand. So nothing was said. Nothing was said. And that was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I mean, imagine growing up and you have my older brother, older sister, my sister's being pampered to be the cheerleader, the prom queen, my brother being pampered to be the track star, baseball player, and I'm just sitting here. They had no idea what to do with me, but we never once had a conversation. And to this day, it still affects me because, I'm still trying to figure out why my mother didn't like me, why my grandparents didn't like me. My brother hated me, and I felt in my heart that was a big burden for me to bear, especially trying to deal with who I was. My brother passed away, but me and my sister's really, really close, and we talked about it, and she said, well, I always loved you, we always knew, but you guys never said anything. I had to figure this shit out by myself. Can you imagine identifying something that's out of the norm, if you will, and you're left alone and try to figure it out by yourself? And that's how many of us were back in the day. And still today, for some segments of our community, still trying to figure out who I am, how did I come to be, and why am I here?
Looking back, I know what it was, but at that time, I just knew I was angry all the time because I didn't know. It was kind of like a taboo kind of thing. Nobody talks about it in the family, nobody addresses it. It's there, but nobody wants to talk about it, And so that was a confusing thing for me to try to understand what was going on with me at the time, Mm-hmm. It was hard though, because I felt like I couldn't talk to nobody. I couldn't tell nobody. I had to keep it from my family, my brothers. And so I was angry because it's how am I being penalized for something that nobody's willing to help me understand, Does that make sense? And that's just for trans, and that's for black. Going to school, there was literally 20 black people at the entire high school. So it's I was getting called niggers, and it was a constant battle, And so being black, and at the time I was gay, but being black and gay was just a double whammy. And so I did have anger, and I did have resentment and issues building up inside, that I outwardly expressed and getting involved in just gangs and crimes and fighting and things of that nature. And so it took a lot of therapy, honestly. it was a lot of therapy. That's where I realized that's where a majority of my anger was coming from, because I wasn't allowed to be me, and as an adult, I can look back and see that up until say about when I was 25, I wasn't my true self. Even as when I was in college, I was not who I wanted to be, and I can look back and see why certain events that happened in my life was because of that.
But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
Growing up, we knew of the civil rights movement. We didn't know the deep intricate parts of what was really going on because our grandparents kept us sheltered. But then I remember Kennedy being assassinated. I remember Robert Kennedy being assassinated, Malcolm X being assassinated, Martin Luther King being assassinated, Medgar Evers being assassinated. That's trauma. So we grew up with trauma and not really knowing about it. So my worldview was kind of skewed from the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? Then going to church and thou shalt not kill, thou shalt love each other, getting these confusing messages even from the church. So I was trying to find me as a person, as a human being, not black, not female, just who I was, you know. And then when I came out to San Francisco, I sadly must say I was oftentimes the only black trans woman in different environments. So I often assimilated myself. I hung around white people because that's who accepted me more so than my black culture. So I ran because growing up, we would always get chased down the street, having bottles and bricks thrown at us by other kids, even up until I left. So I literally ran for my life out of St. Louis. So sadly to say, I was totally okay when I seen another black person. And that's sad to say, but that was it. I was afraid. And you know what? Sadly, in certain environments, I still get scared of my own people. Of what they may do to me, you know, because within the whim, a person can just, you know, do whatever they want to, anyone, really. But, you know, I'm 6'3", I got size 13 feet, I'm beautiful, but people can say, still have these eyes on me and something like that, you know, and that can be dangerous. I mean, the mere fact that a black trans woman can get up, walk out of her door, and make it to where she needs to go and get back, that's a revolutionary act. Because oftentimes we're misgendered, we're harassed, we're sexually harassed, we're hit. People throw bricks at us and they laugh at us, you know. And the biggest part of it was trying to look as authentically as possible because oftentimes our lives depend upon how we look and how we maneuver through the world.
The problem is growing.
A transgender woman is shot and killed.
She was shot and killed.
A transgender woman brutally attacked in Texas.
Shot in the neck in West Philadelphia.
Attention from men has never been a problem. You know, even when I got to San Francisco, I was there from 1970 to 1982. I can't count how many short-term, long-term boyfriends I had. Men were very, very plentiful in those days. However, it was the type of men they were. They were hustlers, they were gay and not really able to deal with it, they were bisexual and feeling better if they had a person that was appeared like opposite gender, they felt better about themselves. And then we had the tricks, and then we had people who lived vicariously through us, and then we had those who didn't like us, and then we have sociopaths. We have sociopaths who will love us, make love to us, and they want to kill us. And then we have black men in our community who love us, are very attracted to us, and then once they go through a process of having sex with us, they have remorse and then they lay hands on us. Just 2 weeks ago, another black trans woman was murdered viciously in Florida. So this is an epidemic with our black community. Because white men ain't killing us, it's our black men who love us, who want to have sex with us, who are killing us.
I live in fear all the time. It's more of a back-pocketed fear now. You know? It's like my shadow, like me and my shadow, we're best friends, you know? Like we got accustomed to each other. And so that's kind of with the fear, you know? Like me and the fear, we've had to realize like, all right, you're not going anywhere, I'm not going anywhere. Let's make this work. And it's a good thing because I'm able to live how I want to live, but it's also scary because then it's like, what if I get too comfortable and if something does happen, you know, it's going to throw me off guard and who knows. So it's, I just realized something. Yeah, so it's like I feel secure here, but it's only because I've been here, you know? But if I was to move, honestly, I don't know. Anytime I go to a new place or vacation or I'm around new people, that's the first thing that comes to mind. How is so-and-so, how are these people going to respond when they physically see me?
I feel like transitioning for white people is glamorized. From the public view, I feel like it seems like it's a lot more, it's easier for them because they're more accepted. They get this mass, social media following, everybody's so interested. And for being black, I feel like it's not that easy. It's not as accepted because you are automatically put into this hyper masculine mode where you just feel like there's this role that you have to fit because you want to be masculine enough. And we're mean to each other. Like the trans community, I feel like for black people can be very cruel too, which makes it difficult. I know for me personally, transitioning with other people of color and watching their transition, a lot of people transition a lot differently than I did. You know, they got the facial hair and they got the body, and that was hard for me because it was like I kept getting misgendered all the time. Even now I still get misgendered, and it was just a very difficult phase for me, which was interesting because it's like, you know, yay, I'm getting to be myself, but then it's like I'm still comparing myself to other people. And I don't know, I feel like people of color just kind of get the short end of the stick. Even medically, it was very difficult versus other people or other stories that I've heard that weren't necessarily people of color. So
I love Diana Ross. Billie Holiday was one of my idols. So I lived my life in that tragic type of sense, because that's how the world was to me during that time. You know, growing up with the civil rights movement, all these murders, it was just tragic. The history of the trans community to access the services was all underground. Like we would go to silicone parties to have silicone pumped in our bodies because we had any other opportunity to get body enhancements, and go to Tijuana or go to some unscrupulous person and our doctor for those type of services. There were no resources, especially for hormone therapy. If you wasn't doing sex work or doing drugs, you can get HIV from sharing a hormone needle. So I was a tragic woman, okay, you know, and so I went to jail often in my career as being a hustler or a prostitute or a junkie, whatever like that, because I've been all three. I went to jail, and going to jail for many of us was like going to a hotel to rest. There was a queen's tank where all the girls were, because we were all together, and guys would come down all the time and play with us and stuff like that. So that was a part of our life. Go to jail, get a boyfriend, something like that, you know. And so I had a petty with 25 priors, and I had a prostitution. If you have petty theft and petty with a prior, that's prison time. I was expected to go to prison. So I went to court, and they gave me 6 months. I came back to the Queen's tank, and I was like, what? Then there was a young girl in there. Her name was Monique Center, one of my girlfriends. She had been to Stepping Stone. Stepping Stone is San Diego's best LGBT recovery program. And she says that she had went there and got her stuff together, got her clothes together, her hormone therapy. I wanted a different start. I wanted something different, but I didn't know how to do. So I called them, and I was released from jail December 25th, 1991 at 12:30, and there was a van outside waiting for me. Imagine, I had lived on the streets hustling for the last 20 years. I didn't know anything but that, but I wanted more, and Stepping Stone gave me more. And that was 30 years ago. October 10th this year, I have 30 years clean and sober. So then after that, they gave me $500 community service, and that's where I did my volunteer service at the LGBT Center back in 1993. That's how I met this white trans woman named Dolores Dickerson, working on demolishing the cross-dressing law. And these were two white trans women, and I'm the first black trans woman that kind of came into the political, social activism fold here in San Diego. And that's how my activism really started. There were times people would ask, what's that all about? Because I was a black trans woman, and they didn't understand why I was there.